Hello everyone, this is Beware the Q. For this video I've decided to do a book review of Man After Man by Dougal Dixon. Now Man After Man is a speculative evolution, speculative biology story, and I actually did a reading of this story about just over a year ago. You can find it on the channel, you can find it in its entirety. There's a video, it's just called Man After Man audiobook. That's about 5 hours long or so it'd be quite a big investment of your time. If you're not keen on that, then I do have the video in smaller parts. I think it's a 14-part playlist where I've recorded chunks of the book at different times, and it's all in order. Part 1's part 14. So if that would be a bit more digestible for you, then go ahead and find that playlist. That's on my channel. It's just called, I think it's just called Man After Man audiobook playlist or something like that. But basically, I've decided to do a review of that book as a sort of retrospective, because it's been just over a year since I last read it. And I'm also currently reading After Man, which is a book also by Dougal Dixon, and it concerns it's similar sort of subject matter. It's a speculative biology book, only it concerns the evolutionary paths of various animals after human beings have left Earth or disappeared or what have you. I'm not that far into it, I'm only a few pages in, but I'm enjoying it so far. So just reading that, it got me thinking about when I read Man After Man last, so I thought I would do just a review, just to talk about my thoughts on it, and maybe hear some of your thoughts as well. Obviously, feel free to leave comments down below with your thoughts on the book. Now, this review, I'm going to try and make it sort of a balanced review, because I do have, I have to be honest, I have a lot of negative thoughts about Man After Man. I do have some positive thoughts as well, it's not all bad, but on the whole, I have to say, now this could be a controversial statement, and having read Man After Man, having digested it over a year since I last read it and everything, I have to say I'm not the biggest fan of Man After Man. There's a number of reasons for that, which we'll get into shortly. I apologise in advance if Man After Man happens to be your favourite speculative evolution book. I'm not trying to upset anyone or anything. These are strictly my opinions. Basically, okay, so I've made some notes and I'll just try and follow them. This is going to be quite an unstructured review. As you can tell, I'm just doing this off the cuff and making it up as I go along, basically. So just referring to my notes, I'll start with the fact that, so Man After Man, a lot of people in the comments say that it's not that scientifically accurate. Now, me personally, I don't have any scientific training at all. I've never been to university. I've never studied seriously biology or anything like that, so I'm a bit of a layman, really. I don't know for certain what's accurate in the book, or people in the comments say that his description of the way DNA works is incorrect. Now, I honestly wouldn't know, to be honest, but yeah, they a lot of people have said it though. But then again, these are just YouTube commenters, so I don't know. Do you take them seriously? Do you take Dougal Dixon seriously? The thing is, Man After Man was written in the 80s. I think it was written from the mid to the late 80s. It came out in 1990, I think. So it could be that simply what he wrote was the understanding that we had of DNA at the time, but it's since changed based on new research, all that stuff. It could be that it was considered correct at the time, but is out of date, basically. The other possibility is that Dougal Dixon just doesn't know what he's talking about. I mean, he is in academia. I forget exactly what his what his field of expertise is. So it could be either of those, or he could be right and the commenters could be wrong. I mean, who knows? But basically, yeah, that's a thing that a lot of people say. Moving on from the whether it's scientifically accurate or not, we'll get into the story. Now, the story of Man After Man, I have to be honest, I found it to be quite a boring story. in all honesty. Now, if you compare it to another speculative evolution work, the famous All Tomorrows by C.M. Kozeman, the one that this channel is completely almost founded on, basically. Shout out to C.M. Kozeman, by the way. I owe everything to you and your story. Basically, All Tomorrows, that's the one that people compare Man After Man with, for the most part. And I have to say, All Tomorrows is a far more fascinating story. I'm not just kissing C.M. Kozeman's ass or anything. I genuinely think that All Tomorrows is a much more interesting story. There's a lot there. It's got... it starts off with talking about the problems that Earth is having, colonising Mars, and then the war between Earth and Mars, the creation of the Star People. They go off into the galaxy and they begin to colonise and terraform all these planets and everything that they come across. And you've got that, and it tells you about the golden age of man, basically. And then there's the first encounter with alien life that gets the Star People basically thinking, oh, okay, there are other intelligent beings, because I think it was the Pandaravis Pandora, I believe it was called, and it was a highly evolved Therizinosaurus from Earth, and it didn't in the story, it didn't match the rest of the life forms on this planet, which I believe were, was it copper-based life form? I can't quite remember. I'm sorry if that's wrong, but yeah, they didn't fit in, basically, and the Star People knew these things were from Earth. The only way they could have got there is if they were transported by someone or something. And it turns out, that this is where the tension begins, because they know there's somebody else out there more powerful than them, more powerful than the Star People, and that's where the tension comes in. They start to develop these weapons, these immense weapons of mass destruction, for in case the encounter with this alien species becomes an unfriendly one. And it turns out it does. They meet the Q, and you've got the Q, and then it tells you about what they did, and it shows you all these really cool species. That's the thing. In All Tomorrows, they've got really cool post-human species. In Man After Man, I don't find the species that interesting, to be honest. Most of them are just boring monkeys, basically. You've got some that run faster and some that eat ants and blah, blah, blah. Not to be disrespectful to the story or anything. It's just, there's not that much variety, really. Most of them are land-based. Most of them are very humanoid-looking. They even look very humanoid in the face. And, All Tomorrows was very inventive. I mean, C.M. Kozeman he's an artist, so he's going to be very kind of adventurous with his designs, much more so than Dougal Dixon was with his designs in Man After Man. Now, in Man After Man, there was a separate artist to the author. All Tomorrows, the same guy, he wrote and drew everything in that book. In Man After Man, it was a commission, well, it was an illustrator named Philip Hood. Now, so look, I don't like, this isn't a harsh negative criticism of Philip Hood. He's a very good artist. You can tell just from a technical standpoint by looking at his illustrations or paintings, or I don't know if they're paintings or drawings, but he's very, very good at what he does. He's a very good artist. You can tell that just by looking at what he's done, but I have to be honest, the illustrations in Man After Man, they make me feel ill. I get a real kind of uncanny valley, visceral reaction, like a response to the illustrations in Man After Man. They do make me feel kind of sick. I don't know if other people have this response. I do, and I always have. From the very first time I opened up Man After Man, and I saw those images of the high techs before reading it, I had a flip through. Well, I say a flip through. I never actually got the book in physical form because it cost about £300 or £400 on eBay. I'm not paying that. So I found a PDF and I downloaded that. And I was scrolling through the PDF, looking at the images, and I thought, oh, so much in there just made me feel like, bleh, that's not a very articulate criticism. It's not a very, highbrow critique, I must say. But, I'm not a very highbrow guy, to be honest. But I don't like the illustrations in Man After Man. That's not a criticism, like I said, of Philip Hood. He's very good. He's a very good artist. I just don't like... he would have been drawing what he was told to draw, basically. He had to make illustrations for what the story required, what it necessitated. So, no kind of... there's no ill feeling towards Philip Hood or anything. He's a very good artist, but I just don't like the illustrations in that book. They just make me feel ill. Do they make you feel ill? Leave a comment with your thoughts. Let me know what you think. Did it give you a horrible, uncanny valley feeling of sickness, the same that it did to me? I'd like to know. I'd like to know that I'm not the only one, because maybe I'm just really squeamish. Moving on from the artwork, I said, I'm just looking at my notes here, and like I said, I found most of the species really boring. There doesn't seem to be much variety. Like I said, they're all very, humanoid, simian, and they're basically just monkeys that occupy different niches for the most part. There are some that aren't, like, the aquatics and the aquamorphs, and the very beginning you've got the vacuumorphs as well. They're obviously not ape-like in appearance. They're quite inventive, and I do like them. Again, the illustrations do. I'm not. Yeah, you know how I feel about the illustrations by this point. But most of the species, I'd say a good 75% of them are just, simian, ape-like, monkey-like. That you got the spike tooths that are just yellow gorillas, and then you've. Like I said, I find the species a bit boring. I can't remember a lot of the names of the species, to be honest. Trying to think because I did a few species profile videos of Man After Man species. Just trying to think which ones I did, to be honest. I think I probably picked the ones that weren't as monkey-like. But anyway, I'm having trouble recalling the names of them as well. It's the story didn't grip me at all. I have to say, reading the Man After Man audiobook was probably... It was the biggest pain in the arse ever. It was the way it's written as well. It's very... He seems fond of entire paragraphs without full stops, and I kept getting out of breath when I was trying to read it, and I had to keep stopping, going back, recording the same bit over and over again. And the sheer length of it as well. It was. Maybe that accounts for some of my negative feelings on the book, because I had such a hard time recording it. It's very hard recording audiobooks. I don't do them very often. I'd like to do them a lot. I like the idea of doing them, mainly because they've already been written and I don't have to write anything. But they are. It is very hard to do. You would think that just grabbing a book and reading it out loud, you think that would be the easiest thing in the world, wouldn't you? But it's so hard. For me, it is anyway. I have a tendency to trip over myself when I'm speaking, and I have a tendency to just mispronounce words, and a lot of words. I've said this lots of times, like in all of my audiobooks, there are mistakes, I'll be honest. And a lot of the time I've had to pin a comment at the top saying, yes, I now know that this is pronounced this way, and at the time I didn't know, because a lot of these words I've only ever seen written down. I've never heard them spoken before, so I said them. I think probably the most infamous one is actually from the All Tomorrow's audiobook, and that was, what was it? It was Archipelago, and at the time I'd never heard it said before, and I thought it was like Archipelago or something, like Archipelago. So I said that, and obviously people pounced on it, as it's the internet. Jump on your mistakes, and but it's So the reading of Man After Man was extremely difficult just based on its length. I've read short stories on the channel, like I've read a few Ray Bradbury's, I've read a few H.P. Lovecraft's as well. Those are short stories, and they're very. It's difficult enough reading a short story, so reading a 5-hour book, full length book, it was extremely challenging. So that could be why I've sort of got a bit of a unpleasant memory of reading it, I suppose. Now, speaking of unpleasantness, there's something else in the story which I find sort of distasteful in a way, and that's Dougal Dixon's anti-human attitude. Now, this is a popular sort of attitude to have in modern times, and that's the humans bad, basically. And I just find that to be sort of intellectually lazy, shall we say. Just, you get people say things like, I can't wait for aliens to come and wipe us out because humans are so bad, humans don't do anything good. It's such nonsense, What you have to remember is it's not humans bad, because the vast majority of human beings are peaceful. They don't have any desires to go out and harm the environment and harm wildlife and start wars and things like that. That really isn't the case. What it is, it's a very small group of decision makers, psychopaths basically, real high up people that get together and say, right, we're going to start a war with this country, we're going to start mining this resource which is going to have a detrimental effect on the environment. It's a very small group of people that do those things, mentally ill people. The vast majority of human beings don't want to do anything like that. They just want to live their lives in peace. They always did, they weren't sitting around thinking, I want to go to war. I want lots of people to die. I want to cause the extinction of lots of species. The human beings in general are not like that at all. So this anti-human attitude of we're all to blame for the state of the world and we deserve to be wiped out, it's an attitude that Dougal Dixon seems to possess, and that seems to be a common attitude with a lot of people in academia, based on what I can see. They're all, they'll say that they're trying to improve the world for people, and yet at the same time their seething hatred for people just shines through all the time. And if you just take a moment to really listen to them, you'll notice it. And Dougal Dixon is very much of that ilk. He's an academic. He considers, naturally he'll consider himself to be far more intelligent than the average person, and therefore, what he says is obviously right. It's I hope what I've been saying so far is articulate enough for you to really understand where I'm coming from. I just really don't like this attitude of, humans bad, they should be wiped out because they cause so much destruction and pollution, and it's just, I've heard it all before, and it's really not the case with most people. Most people don't want to cause harm, they just want to live their lives. So don't say humanity needs to be wiped out and humanity is awful. Just say this small group of people who are making all these decisions that cause all this harm, they're the bad guys and they need to be, removed from their positions, basically. So, that's I'm just trying to think, because I made a few notes, like I said, just trying to think if there's anything else to say, really. It's, what I did like about Man After Man is, speculative evolution it's not a massive genre. It's not like there's libraries full of these books of this genre that you can look to, and, like if you wanted to get into science fiction or if you wanted to get into horror or any genre, there's going to be, thousands and thousands upon thousands of books that you can find and read about, or, just read the stories. Speculative, Spec Evo is a very, very small genre, really. There's only a handful of books. You've got All Tomorrows, you've got Man After Man, you've got After Man, You've got Expedition by Wayne Barlow. That's another one I've got on my shelf. I haven't read it yet, but I really want to. Then there are a few others as well, but you can probably count on both of your hands how many there are. So what I do like about Man After Man is it's a valuable example of the genre. Now, I think with the explosion of All Tomorrow's fever that happened a couple of years ago, back in the summer of 2021, when Alt-Shift-X did his overview video of All Tomorrows and got it noticed by millions and millions of people, there has been a big increase in the amount of Spec Evo content online. You've got a lot of independent artists who they've got Instagram accounts and they're coming up with their own worlds and doing their own world building and everything. It's really cool to see. I haven't looked at as much of that as I would like to. That's something I'd like to get into researching when I've got a bit more time. As I've said in the past couple of videos, I've recently moved into a new house. I'm doing all sorts of DIY type things at the moment. That's why my videos are a bit sparse on YouTube at the moment, but once all that's done, I really plan to crack on with cranking out videos, a few times a week. And part of that is I'm going to be looking for Spec Evo projects online. Man After Man is undoubtedly is a big inspiration to a lot of people. I would say right now All Tomorrows is the biggest influence on people, and Man After Man is probably a very, very close second, because when people find All Tomorrows, a lot of them ask, I've had a lot of people in the comments ask me, what other books are there like this? What similar kinds of things are out there? And I always mention Man After Man, not just because I've done an audiobook video on it, but because it is probably, alongside Expedition by Wayne Barlow, I think I would consider those three the big three. Personally, I would say All Tomorrows, Man After Man, Expedition. Those are the big three of Spec Evo at the moment, in my opinion. So Man After Man is the one I always recommend because it is similar. It's very, very different at the same time. It's got a very different style, but it is a good resource for people who are looking to get into the genre, maybe get some inspiration for creating their own worlds, doing their own world building, or just, if they just want something to read, So I always recommend Man After Man, despite my not really enjoying it that much. And that's not to say I hate it. I don't hate Man After Man. I think it's pretty gross to look at. I think the story is lacking. And, a lot of the subliminal messaging coming through from the author, I find sort of off-putting. But it is a solid Spec Evo work. It's a good full-length book. I would like to own it physically. As I said before, it's very, very expensive and it's very, very rare. So if ever I find one for reasonably cheap, I don't want to spend £300 on a book, any book. I wouldn't spend £300 on the original copy of the Bible. But I wouldn't want to spend that much on any book at all. I wouldn't want to spend it on a book that I'm not that keen on, like Man After Man. If ever I find it for cheap, if by some miracle I come across it in an Oxfam shop or something for 10 quid, I'll definitely get it. I would like to have it on my shelf with all my other books. It's kind of a love-hate relationship I have with Man After Man, I suppose, at the end of the day. It's certainly done me a lot of good on the channel. I'm grateful to it for that. It's brought a lot of viewers in. A lot of people have subscribed, having watched or listened to that video. So I owe it a lot. I do. And I don't want it to seem like I'm just ragging on it. I do sort of I dislike it, but I like it for what it is as well. It's kind of complicated to really get across my exact feelings on it. But I'm glad that I read it. That's the thing. I'm glad that I found it. I'm glad that I was able to introduce it to a lot of people as well, because as I said, it's a valuable contribution to the genre. So I guess we should just leave it at that, because this video, it's about it's about 25 minutes long now, so that's it's quite a long one really. But you know, let me know your thoughts. Leave a comment with how you feel about Man After Man, whether you agree with me, whether you disagree, whether you've got the uncanny valley feeling from looking at the illustrations like I did. You know, just let me know your thoughts. It's you don't have to agree with me, but I just want to hear what you think as well. These are just what I think. Please don't listen to this and hear my negative criticisms of it and decide not to read it or not to listen to the audiobook of it, or you know, that's not my intention. I'm not trying to put anybody off from reading this book. It's, if you're into speculative evolution, you do need to read it. It's extremely valuable. It's up there with All Tomorrows. If you like All Tomorrows, read Man After Man. So yeah, thanks for listening to this video. I know it's a bit of a rambling one. I've been enjoying doing these off-the-cuff style videos recently. It certainly allows me a lot more freedom. It's certainly easier editing-wise, and you know, I mean, the channel's been going for about 2 years now, and it's a weird thing for me. It's really difficult to write my videos, and it's also very difficult to do videos that I haven't written, like the audiobooks. You know, it's I don't know, why isn't there an easy way of doing this? I think these unscripted videos where I just talk and just give you my thoughts off the top of my head, these are probably the easiest ones, even if I have to sacrifice some fluidity in the way that I speak, because obviously with scripted videos I've got what I need to say right in front of me, but blimey do they take time to make. It's crazy how long it takes to make one of those videos, all the editing involved. After 2 years, I'm pretty, creator burnout is it's a common thing. It's a bit of a cliche at the moment, I suppose. You probably heard every YouTuber that you watch mention creator burnout at some point. But just with everything that I've been doing as well, all the real world stuff, the moving and the fixing the place up and everything, and also having to come up with videos, it's pretty tiring. So I appreciate your patience, by the way. It takes me a long time to get videos out at the moment. I do apologise for that. It won't be forever. When things are settled down and I've got more time, I will be cranking the videos out like crazy. I promise you. You know, I owe you that, because you've helped me get to the point I'm at now where I can just do YouTube and not have to work. You know, I don't have to have employment. I'm making enough from YouTube to just do this. That's all down to you subscribing and watching my videos. You know, I really appreciate it. You know, thanks for that. I don't say it often enough, I don't feel like, in my videos, but I do want to say a big thank you for everything, like, you know, just for liking the videos. And yeah, so let's call it a day for there. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the like button, share the video, leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't already done so. And I'd like to say a special thank you to all of my members and patrons, the names of which you can see here on the screen now. This has been Beware the Q, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.